Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels. My name is Jay Shalansky, and joining me this week are John Bushfax Bushman and Lucas Technophobia Ustick.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello. Glad to be here.
Good. I'm glad you guys are here. Kyle had a scheduled day off for this week's episode, so don't worry. He's still here. He's still part of the Scoundrels. He'll be back next week. But yeah, unless you guys kill it, maybe this is open auditions, huh? And we just replace the old.
For coming for his job. Well, he was the first one to drop a game in Invader, so he's getting knocked down on the totem pole.
He was. Yeah. Well, I'm officially the second now. So. But we're gonna talk about Invader League. We're gonna talk about what was it, Lucas? What's appropriate behavior?
Tabletop etiquette.
Tabletop etiquette.
Yep, I like that. That's a good one. You know, I'd like to tie that into playing Invader League as well, because I have some things I want to talk about with that. But then, yeah, and we're gonna go over that tabletop etiquette. Maybe we'll talk about Lucas's hipster list building that seems to be the talk of the town and has gotten everybody in an uproar. So we'll cover that too. But first thing we're gonna do is a little housekeeping. First things first, I'm very excited to announce by the time this is live, you guys will probably have already seen maybe some posts about it, but we actually built another tool for the Legion community called Legion Stream. What's that, John?
So many tools.
Yeah.
All the tools.
So good.
Swiss Army knife of Legion.
Well, and again, we say this every time, but basically what happens is I or John or somebody at the 5th Trooper wants something because we want it to make our lives easier. And then we're like, oh yeah, well, why don't we just make this into a tool? And so this one happened to be one of mine. What is it? Tabletop TO has always had this great X-Wing stream tool that I've always been envious of. We used once when we did Evan and I did a stream up in northern Quebec for X-Wing. That's a whole nother trip I'll tell you about. They don't speak English up there. And so I've always been envious of that tool. And so I said, that's it. I want one for Legion. And so we have one now. So basically what Legion Stream is, it's a tool utility for streamers that basically has this dashboard that's web-based, and you go in and you type in the blue player's name and their faction, red player's name and faction, and then you can select command cards, battlefield cards, put in the time for the round, put in the turn, victory points, all that stuff. And then it shows up on these cool overlays that are all web-based that you just pull into OBS or into Streamlabs. And they're just these quick, easy overlays that you don't have to store anything locally or monkey with like text files or get an extra plugin for Streamlabs or something to make this stuff work. We did all the work for you and it's all set, and it's a free to use tool. And you just go to legionstream.thefifthtrooper.com and you guys can go ahead and register and log in and check it out and start using it for your streams. And whether you're streaming at home or you're streaming a TTS game, it'll be available for you to use for free like all our other tools. And I'm going to put the link in the description here, both on the podcast and on the YouTube channel, so you guys can go ahead and click over and link that. And we've already had some of the streamers have already been using it. We used it at Adepticon, like the beta version of it. And then Mike Cirillo from Legion 99, he's been using it, Ghost Walking on the Discord. He's been using it, and I just kind of released it to the other Legion streamers earlier this week. So so that's really exciting. And just a nice tool for you guys to use. And we're going to be building more on that. I think Ben, their Imperial sympathizer, I said, hey, if you guys have any ideas, for like updates to this thing, and I think Ben gave me like 14 ideas, and so and like they're all really good. So I'm like, okay, yeah, man, like version 2, so so that's going to be kind of a living tool that we'll update and build like we build all our other tools. And so now we're just adding that one to the list of the 3 or 4 that we have now, and really excited about that. Second thing for housekeeping, if you are following Stormtide and you're a fan of Stormtide, we are going to be at some point here in the next couple of months releasing store kits. So very similar to how we do our monthly subscription, stores can get a subscription for a narrative, very unique individual narrative for the store. So you'll be able to play Stormtide at stores with something that we built specifically designed for that, because I know a lot of people now have been telling me they've been playing them at the stores, but they're trying to play the home version of Stormtide at the stores, but which works but doesn't really work. There's some like things they have to add on, like how victory points work and all that, but you'll be happy to know we're working on that, and actually just had our first alpha test at a store this past weekend and went really well. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. I had a lot of notes that I took about how it would work and how we would progress people week to week and stuff like that, and how things could work, like what if somebody doesn't show up next week, what do you do? So so that's exciting. And trying to think, support us on Patreon. That's how, the blog and the podcasts and all the content, all these tools that we're creating, that's how we pay for those. Because we need to pay the developers, we need to pay the hosting fees. There's a lot of things that need to be paid for that you, the Patreon subscriber, pay for us, and we pay our staff here at the Fifth Trooper. As much as we all love this and would love to do it for free, I like paying everybody because it makes me feel good. Yeah, and that's thanks to the Patreon subscribers. So check that out. Go to thefifthtrooper.com, buy your Legion stuff, 10% off with the code SWLegion, as always. And I think that's enough for my housekeeping. I think I covered it.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, and there's even more, right, that I'm not even gonna get to, because
The
I
house keeps
literally,
getting bigger.
yeah, I could just do a whole
Got a whole
podcast.
hotel now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be compound keeping at this point, or the castle. It's no longer just a home.
yeah. Yeah, so all right, let's talk a little Invader League. So I think a majority of the Fifth Trooper has been playing Invader League. I think there's at least 6 or 7 of us playing.
Yeah.
We've been doing pretty well. I've actually, through all 5 of my games, and just we record this Monday, earlier today on Monday, I suffered my first defeat, and so I'm officially done with round robin at 4-1, which we were talking before the cast. For those of you that are playing in Invader League, 4-1 generally will get you to the next round, unless there's some like weirdness where you get 3 4-1s, and then you go into like a head-to-head type mathematical situation. But
yeah, and if like the head-to-head is like rock paper scissors style, where you beat one of them but the other one beat this guy and he beat you,
yeah,
and then like you have to go to the next tiebreaker.
right. But I think probably
Yeah.
safe to say
Probably won't happen
because it's the top 2 from each round robin get to move on. So I've hopefully did everything I could, and I don't mind starting with that game if you guys want, since it's a
let's hear
loss,
it.
because I think we talk about a lot of wins on these podcasts and not a lot of losses. And so it's funny, I think I said it to you guys in our Discord chat, and Rachel, my wife, was asking me how it went, and I told her it was like, I go, everything was going well until it wasn't, and it was just like quicksand and like all these like decisions, and both good decisions by my opponent, but bad decisions by me just kept compounding on each other and just sinking me further. And it just felt like the more I tried to claw out, the faster I was sinking into the quicksand. And it was a great game, and it was like really tight up until about turn 5, and then things just and this kind of happens, right? We all know this, where like, oh, a dice roll won't go your way, and you're like, that's okay, like this is a dice game, I'm gonna make it up on the next one. And then you do something, and then it doesn't go your way again, and you're like, that's okay, I'll make it up. And like, and the next thing you know, you're down like 2 or 3 activations, and you're just like, all right, I'm in, like, and I'm just pulling all the emergency switches and trying to put the oxygen mask on, and like just trying to survive. And but that's part of the problem with the way I play this list is I play it very conservatively, right? I'm
Really?
waiting. Yeah, I
Oh, I'm
know.
impressed.
Thanks. I think though what happens is with that, I struggle with the point on where to make the push. So I'm waiting and I'm waiting for my moment, but then sometimes it passes me by and I don't see it until it's already like 4 activations past where I needed to come out and do something with Luke or Sabine or somebody else, And this
Yeah.
and this happened, and we were on a tough map for me, not to give excuses, but like, I was blue player. He picked the better board edge, which was great. And I was just Matacor is the map, and I was just kind of stuck, turtled behind like these 2 pieces of terrain with my entire army, like trying to wait, because he was playing Yoda, Wookiees, clones, 2 Barks, and Arc team with like Echo or whatever, and it was just
Oh, okay.
so I had to watch out because I have rebels with white save, so I can't take all those hits, right? So I'm like out of line of sight, like hiding and hiding and hiding, and then I got a bunch of shots in on one of his Barks, and it was down to 1 wound left, and then he just like noped out of there and just like U-turned and went the other way and hit on the other side of the board, so I couldn't get that activation. Then the other arc or the other Bark came around and like swooped around my backfield, and he was just getting these shots in, and like we did like a cleanup with Blood Ocean on the stream. You guys could see it; it's on stream. And Blood Ocean was just like, "Yeah, when he shot this and this, like the whole stream was like, oh yeah, that'll survive, no problem. Jay's fine." And then it didn't. Like, like he got way more shots in than we thought he was going to get in, and I didn't make the saves. But Kodak played a great game. He did everything he needed to do, and we both. It was funny because we were talking because we both thought I had it, and then just everything started going wrong, and then I didn't have it anymore. And that happens. It's weird. It's one of those weird games where you're like trying to figure out the mistakes you made and where you could have gone better. And it wasn't like direct mistakes. It was more of just like I waited too long. I think
Yeah.
when I should have pushed forward probably a turn earlier and really started going into his face.
Which objective did you play?
Key positions,
Oh, okay.
and I had 10 activations and he had 9. And I did a Sabine. One of my big mistakes was I had a bombing turn, and basically I was using it to just zone out the middle KP, right, so that he would have to make tough decisions on coming in. And I wanted to move Luke in, but realized all the bombs were there and I wouldn't be able to both bomb him and have Luke move in, because then Luke would be part of that bombing. And so I triggered the bombs probably a turn earlier than I should have. I should have left them there for another turn and kept zoning out with the bombs, and then came in with Luke to clean up. And I just, in my head, sometimes you just don't see the game. Basically
Yeah.
what it comes down to, right? And this was one of those times I had a plan in my head, and then I don't know, man, it just like washed over me that I no longer had a plan, and I just couldn't figure out how to grasp it back onto a winning strategy.
Jeez.
Quicksand
Yeah.
happens.
I think that whole timing thing a lot of people can relate to, because I know we talked about this on the cast before, but like your MO typically was hyper aggressive play and going in. And you've been doing great this Invader season, showing some really great patient play with Jedi and fighting. It's always finding that balance between playing safe and conservative, but knowing when it's time to like go in and go aggressive. And right, like a lot of people, I feel like think that they miss the window being, not patient enough, but like it's both ways. There's a sweet spot. There's itty bitty living space right in between.
Yeah,
That's the time to go in.
Yeah, and I've been struggling with that. And it's right on the opposite end, which is I'm way too conservative now. Like I went from hyper aggressive, like way too aggressive, to way too conservative, and then it's too late, and yeah, it's just striking that balance. And I think understanding too the list you're facing, which I'm still I still have real struggles playing against Republic. Like I really struggle connecting the dots with like my eyes just start to gloss over with all the like tokens and the sharing and the like who's got what, and now Yoda can share his tokens on this turn, but now on this turn he does this, and I'm just like trying to follow everything, and I'm like, I don't know, I struggle a lot against Republic right now, like, and just trying to like have it all in, because Empire and Rebels and CIS are very easy to understand. There isn't a lot of like gimmicky stuff going on. It's just like, okay, this, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. This is the range they can shoot at. This is how this is going to work, blah, 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 blah. And then you get into Gar and it's like, well, now we have Wookiees, and on this, Yoda's 3-pip, I think it is, they can share Yoda's tokens, but Yoda can't attack. But then he's got burst of speed, but then on his 1-pip turn, he can move 3, which only would reduce his speed down to 2. Like, and you're just like going, like I can't, like I'm trying to keep
And
his
he could
entire
double action anything,
Yeah.
like,
well,
and then
that's
guidance.
right, and that's what got me too at the end
a lot.
was I was like ignoring Yoda. And then he like put his 1-pip down. I'm like, oh my God, he can do double force push. So basically at that point, he could just push 2 people off the key position after they activated. And then there was nothing I could do about it, and it was just, oh man, it was rough, and so I think that's something I got to work on is like play more Gar players so that I can like get all the like there's like it's like the moving ball trick, where there's 3 dishes and the ball's under one of them and you got to figure out which one. But yeah, but no, Kodak played a great game. He did great. I don't want to take anything away from him. He did everything he was supposed to do, and man, I just couldn't pull it out. So
Dang,
yeah,
sounds intense.
it is. I'm like beating myself up about it. So just for everybody's knowledge that's listening, I'm literally recording this like maybe 2 hours after I finished playing. So I'm still like hot and like reeling
still fresh
from
on
the
your
pain.
mind.
Yeah. But
Okay.
how you guys been doing in Invader League?
You want to start, Lucas?
Sure. So we're both in the West Coast bracket, aka the Best Coast bracket.
A little bit
And-
tougher than your East Coast shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I think it's the difference between the term like tall versus wide. Like on the East Coast, it's very tall. You got Kyle Dornbos and Luke Cook, and then you got everybody else on the West Coast.
And Jay Shalansky. What?
And Jay Solansky.
Oh, we're not naming everybody. Oh, I see. Oh, and then we got everybody on the West Coast. So you're
Oh.
telling me
We
you know
got
what? Go
Timbo.
ahead,
We
Lucas.
got
Oh,
go ahead.
Bushman.
Oh, he's fired up now.
Hey, last time you had some undefended bashes against the West Coast, so I came in
Yeah,
ready
that's
to
true.
throw down.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Had to defend my people a little bit.
Yeah, I get it.
Take digs while I can. But I ended up in group 6 for West Coast. And my group was actually pretty tough. There are 4 of us who have all made single elims previously, and they're all doing quite well in the ELO rankings and everything. So it was a pretty deep group as far as players. And I played 3 games so far. And my first game was against R37 and 008. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be R37 noob or N08, but I'm going to say the number instead. But so I guess I should talk about what I'm running first. I've been playing Iden, triple ISF, triple dewbacks. So if you guys have been following the blog, I've been writing about dewbacks and Iden and actually this list for the past few months, and decided to take it to a competitive event to, give it a try. I've been playing it out locally, but obviously, stuff like Invader or Adepticon is where you really can test these things out against a lot of different opponents. And my first game was against R37, and he is running an 11 activation Empire list with Callus, Krennic, 2 Shores, 2 Mortars, 2 Storms of T21s and Specialists, and then a Death Trooper and 2 Snipers. So very strong gun line. And in this game in particular, I felt that he had the firepower on me. I have tactical strike, but he has a lot of long range threats, a lot of pierce, cunning also to get some deadly shots in. And so on turn 0, we ended up going to recover the supplies, which was in his deck because with all that cunning and callous, he has a pretty good shot at snagging the box and getting out. But I figured I didn't want my game to go super long because I wasn't confident in my ability to outshoot him at range. And so with that, early on, Iden, I was able to go sniper with Iden, and Del Mico and Inferno also has a sniper. And so I was able to tack strike and I think put 4 wounds onto Callus like right off the bat because he like positioned him so he can move in. But since I have that super long range and can still hit hard, I was able to get that damage early. Forced him to retreat, and then it basically became a gunfight over the middle. Turns 3, so he moved back turn 1. We kind of traded shots back and forth. He killed a dewback, I killed a mortar, different things. I was slowly advancing to the center. Then he came flying back in with Callus, based Iden on it, and he's a decent melee threat. And Iden was down at like 1 health at that point. And luckily I still had all my dewbacks, so I swarmed him, killed Callus, and basically from that point on, it was like grab it with a unit, get shot off the board, grab it with another unit, and run. So I think when I ended the game,
Whatever works. I mean,
I had a stormtrooper with like 2 health left, carrying 2 boxes, and like a shore trooper with the box, and then Inferno squad was all I had left. And it was his entire army just pushing on me. So the game basically ended by like just running behind line of sight blockers, taking dodges, and you'd flank it, and then I'd double move to another line of sight blocker. So it was like 3 turns of just everyone on my side getting mowed down, and I was running. So I ended up getting it. Super close game, barely held on to it. And then second game was against Aesir, and he's playing Separatists. Another really tough game. He was playing a 13 activation Separatist army. So triple spiders, triple BXs, a whole bunch of B1s, and then a super tac droid. And this is another one where I knew like I needed the objectives to go my favor because also people have really deep bids in my group for whatever reason. A 7-point bid and then a 6-point bid. So myself sitting with just a 3-point bid, getting beat out by everybody.
You think you have a bid.
Yeah, I mean, look at Adepticon. Everyone had like 2-point bids. So I was like, I'll go 3. So like I get, beat them out every so often. But I guess everyone saw Adepticon and then
I think I've
deeper.
won the bid twice so far with 2-point bid.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
But this one I was able to force payload. And out of the other objectives, my thought there was along the lines of he has 13 activations. That's a whole lot to kill. My hope is really being able to get my dewbacks in there and just like start tearing up B1s and like what's the best objective out of he had KP, intercept, payload, and SAB. And so I was like, can't do SAB. Other 2 are but I'd love payload because I can get my dewbacks in.
And 6 of his units don't want to be moving.
Yep,
Spiders
exactly.
And the BXs don't want to move shoot.
So I ended up getting payload, and it's on that map that has like the 2 big hills in the middle and the bridge. And he was able to, as a blue player, scout ahead with the BX droid and forward cohere and basically like block me out from infiltrating anywhere. But also since he had 13 activations, like no matter where I infiltrate all my guys, he could put all 3 of his spiders down after and just there's like flanks. So I couldn't really do anything. So I basically had to turtle behind these 2 hills in the middle. And turn 1, nothing really happened. He was able to kill my mortar with his spiders. And then basically I was able to like inch forward, but stay in cover. So then I got a turn 2 tactical strike in. And with that tactical strike, I think I killed 2 spiders and some B1s. And then after that, really strong tac strike back. And then we started pushing our payloads, and there's like that bridge there. So like I had a dewback that went across the bridge and tied up a bunch of B1s there and then flanked. And
the
basically
dewback's allowed to run across that bridge. It's like as wide as a trooper.
It's as wide as like 2 troopers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's wide enough.
I mean, balances. It's not like MCP rules. I guess. Okay.
I think if I remember right, there's like just a tiny bit on each side of the dewback. It's wider than you might expect. But yeah, he basically flew across that dewback.
Say so, pal.
You can watch.
I think those dewbacks are a little too heavy for that bridge.
Oh, by the way, all these games are streamed. So my one against R37, I self-casted on Twitch.
Oh, okay.
So that's Twitch TV/Technophobia. Then my one against Acer I'm talking about right now was cast by Jedward. I believe is his Twitch tag as well. I know
When
that's
you
his name
self-stream, do you have yours and your opponent's audio in it?
Yes, so you can hear us talking to each other. Yeah.
So then I wouldn't be allowed to cuss.
I mean, you could if you wanted to. I just wore my opponents beforehand.
Uh,
There's no rules about that on Twitch, so it's
okay.
just like
Oh.
present yourself as you're okay with the
Cool.
internet perceiving yourself.
Yeah, I don't care about the internet. I'm gonna
um,
slap a big Fifth Trooper logo on it too.
heck yeah. Yeah, so the R37 was self-cast, and then the one I'll talk about after this was self-cast. This game against Acer was cast on Jedward's Twitch channel if you want to see like action. But it went back and forth, and he had a really defensive position with all his BXs and like started killing a lot of my stuff. My dewbacks were tearing up his back line. And it got to the point where we both were like clearly I had two choices basically. Like I could start trying to like go all in on stopping his cart, and my cart would also probably stop, or I could try and fight to push them all. And I ended up taking the route of, instead of like double moving with some of my guys to push my own cart, starting to shoot his defenders. And it ended up coming down to attrition because we were both at range 1
Oh man.
of each other's sides. And I thought I was in a really good spot because end of turn 5, he had a B1 on 1 health, and I had an aim shot with the dewback completely blanked out. And I was like, all right, next turn, I'll go for it. Next turn, I
you're
put an
rolling
order
white
on.
dice with that. Like,
Well, give me a second. That's okay. Yeah, this is leading
White
into a
dice.
series of unfortunate events.
okay.
So I aim shot the dewback. I'm like, I got reasonable chance of getting some paint on there to finish this off. And like, if it doesn't happen, I got next turn. Blank that out. The next turn, I bid for priority, gave my dewback in action, and I moved forward, shot that same B1, and then engaged the other one to stop the payload. Completely blank out again. He's able to double move that B1 behind this thing. So then what I ended up doing is I swing back with Iden, shoot that B1 again, pump a crit through, saves it out. At this point, his payload's going to move if I don't kill the B1, by the way. This is the important
single
part.
B1.
A single B1
3
sitting
attacks.
there. Yeah. Now I go back with Inferno Squadron because they have Delmico, pump another shot through. It saves it. I'm going for attrition. So there's another B1.
It's gonna
unit.
panic at this point. I mean,
It already activated, right? So it's just sitting on his payload to move it. Delmico shoots at another single B1 squadron with his 4 dice, gets 2 through, double saves them. And so I was like, in my head, I was doing all this math. I'm like, I can kill these 2 B1 units. I'm gonna be ahead on attrition. And then so I did get it eventually. I had basically all my guys on my own payload retreated and like shot back into his payload because like there's one Superman B1. But it finally went down, and then that's what grabbed me the game, was because I was ahead on attrition. It ended up being super close because I was only up by like 20 points because I thought I was going to have, like 120 from killing 2 B1 units.
Right.
But so it was another super close game. So tied on payload and came down to kill points. And then my final game, I played against Moon, who I believe this is his first tournament, and he was playing a double the Maul. If you guys don't know what that is Count Dooku and Darth Maul. So you used to call Maul Grievous double the fall, or sorry, Dooku Grievous double the fall. So you replace Grievous and Maul, it's double the Maul. Yeah.
That's cute.
And I don't think he had played against Tac Strike before. And so basically turn 1, I killed Dooku with Tac Strike, and then turn 2 finished off Maul. And so that was a pretty brutal one. So he deployed his guys behind like LOS blockers, but was able to have some flanks. And yeah, I don't think he realized how many crits Tac Strike pumps through on those things. And that was another scary one because Dooku did have burst of speed. And so I was like, if Dooku gets in, like my army's not equipped to handle it.
Nope.
But Tac Strike just wiped those 2 focus pieces early because it was like Tac Strike, and then everyone then shot Maul.
Right.
And so that early attrition was able to set me ahead. And once those 2 are gone, the game kind of swung after that point. So that puts me at 3-0 with a couple points. As far as moving on, it's not guaranteed yet. So R37, who I played in my first game, ended up going 4-1 with 9 points as so like really strong tiebreakers. And then we still have some other people. I still have some tough games. Like I still have Cywern to play, who's another tough opponent. So yeah. everyone's
Okay.
at this point has like it's a very well spread group, so it's not that unlikely that we could have 3-4-1s, just like knowing the skill cap of some of these players and
Well,
like
so
everyone's records.
both of your remaining opponents are the only two. I'm looking at your thing now. Are
Yeah.
the only two eligible for 4-1s.
Yep.
So it's nice that you have like control of your destiny there.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, like I got to win my next 2 games, but like it's up to me to win those. So it's nice that like there could be
Yeah.
2-4-1s.
You could lose a game, right? You could be
Yeah.
4-1. But if you win a game, then you knock one of the 4-1s out, and
Yeah,
then you're up to fate.
exactly. But like I said, both these guys are real good players. So like if I drop a game to one of them, it's not inconceivable the other one like wins out the rest of their games.
His other, yeah.
So it's a tight group, but it's been super fun so far. All those games are really great. They're all streamed if you want to see it. I know some people are
Okay.
always wanting to see Iden tax strike stuff because it's always been good, but I feel like it hasn't had too many
Yeah.
showings pre-Adepticon. So if you're interested in seeing how tax strike works, or if you've been hearing about tax strike and
Yeah.
want to see some games with
I
tax
want to
strike,
see these infamous dewbacks that you say don't suck.
dude, they're great,
Uh,
man.
Which game would you recommend watching if I were only to watch one?
If you want to see the dewbacks, I would say the Acer one. So that's on Jedward's Twitch.
Okay.
Because on the one against R37, they basically were just like cannon fodder as I was running away. So
See,
like,
yeah, that's what dewbacks do.
yeah,
They just die.
exactly. And then against Moon, it was tax strike pretty much decided the game pretty quick. So they
Okay.
ended up chomping some stuff, but right in a double force user list, once the force users go down, it's
Yeah.
tough to hold on.
Hence the name.
Yep. So how's your
Okay.
season been going, John?
It's been good. I finished a game today on Monday. Looks like 2 hours ago now. I finished. And it was my 4th win. So I'm 4-0 right now. And with how the rest of my pod is, the only opponent I haven't played against already has, I think, 2 losses. So I am guaranteed to make it in. Because there cannot be 3-4-1s at this point.
Mhm.
But I've had some real tight games, a lot of fun games too. Played against a triple B2 triple Magna Guard, which was terrifying.
It's a lot of wounds.
It's so many wounds, and it just keeps coming, like it doesn't stop. But these DLTs are disgusting, and they took almost like, so I'm running Op Luke with double officers with vigilance and 5 DLTs with captains and situational awareness, and then 2 snipers. So these, I mean, the DLTs just don't die. And if they take wounds, it's like 1. And they just stay fully healthy and hit like trucks at range 3. And they'll usually force a save at range 4 as well. Because of the critical. But so that game, B2s do not like critical at all. So I won that game. It was a recover. Luke went in and was contesting the middle box against, I think, a Magna and a B2. And Luke was touching it at the end of round 1, I think. And then I played I'm a Jedi. And so they couldn't do anything to Luke, and I picked it up and left.
Yeah.
As Luke does.
Sometimes not fighting is just how you win.
Yeah. Especially against Magnas.
Yeah.
Luke does not want to fight Magnas. Like, that is a not fun time for him.
What do you mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You don't like it when a
Pierce,
100-point
8
unit
health,
can tie down your 200-point unit?
230 point. How much do I spend on him? I spend too much on him. It's a lot. I had an extremely tight game today, though. I played against Roger Doinkinson is his name. It's a great name.
That's a great name.
And he had almost my LVO list. So he had triple sniper, Han, Luke, Chewie. I think some upgrade choices were different. Like he didn't have burst of speed. And then he had 2 DLTs, Rebel Vets, and a Mark II. And going into it, like just looking at the lists, I wasn't worried. I was like, hey, I've got DLTs. Like I'm going to be same thing as the previous three games. Like I'm going to be way ahead on attrition. I was not ahead on attrition. Although nothing died till like round 4. His snipers, that meant his snipers were alive and shooting my DLTs for 4 rounds. And there's 3 of them that ignore my dodges.
Yep.
So like just looking at that, that's like 12 wounds that of my DLTs. It's more DLTs than I've lost all tournament. So I had like I think 2 full squads by the end of the game, and the rest were down to like 1 model. But that game came to round 4. I was able to counter snipe 2 of his strike teams that had 1 model left. And so that activation swing gave my Luke a lot more control to react afterwards.
So can I ask you a question just about your setup? I guess you should finish this game, then I'll ask you the question, but.
Okay. I was going to say the biggest thing I think for this game, and it happened in one of my other games too, I got to choose red player because, and I did choose it I looked at the map beforehand, planning it out, thinking in both those games, there was a very favorable piece of terrain on one side of the map that was just barely in range 1 of the center, and the other side didn't have that. So that meant that my DLT I had 2 DLTs that could sit up in heavy cover and contest the middle objective and have all their protection. And on another map, it was like 3 DLTs that I could fit there. And that's huge. And both those games I did pull intercept. So it worked out. I sat on the intercepts from, I think probably starting round 2. So I'd move dodge, get that dodge train going, and then move shoot. But then from then on, they're just aiming and shooting, and you have to fight through 3 hits to even make them blink.
Yeah, if you have a similar deck to an opponent, often, right, you're gonna have a disadvantage in hostage and sabotage and moisture evaporators a little bit because you got to kill something.
I got Luke.
Fair enough.
I got burst of speed.
This is true.
I'm not worried about hostage because I have a force user.
Yeah.
And Vaps, I'm so used to playing Vaps. Like I don't care. I'll hop up there slowly and I'll get Luke in there.
Yeah.
And burst of speed makes it that much easier.
The question I had was about your division between DLTs and snipers. We actually kind of talked about this at Adepticon when we were watching the quarterfinal, because we were discussing whether you wanted to bring 3 snipers and 4 DLT core, and I see you settled on 5 DLTs, 2 snipers. And so now that you're 4 games deep, are you happy with that choice? Or because it sounded like that one game, your opponent having extra snipers kind of swung it in his favor, but
it swung it in his favor because my list relied on dodges.
Yeah.
None of my opponent's lists have relied on dodges or red saves, mind you. So I haven't needed that extra pierce really. And well, I did play against 1 Imperial, but I think Luke got into melee round 2 on that. And so he's applying all the pierce to those red saves on his own. So I think the idea is why I take 5 DLTs, probably same reason that I'm going to forget his name now. But
it was
the guy,
Matt, right? Zeus Juice. Yeah.
Went, he was top 4 at Adepticon. Why he took 5 as well is a meta call, expecting to struggle more against droids that don't care about the pierce. So you want that volume of fire. And it does pay off. I had in a couple games, if one of my DLTs, and it happened in the game today too, they'll pour a ton of shots into one DLT. And once they finally get it down to, maybe just two models or the DLT's dead even, he's probably still alive. It's pretty hard to kill that squad. Then he just gets out of there and you rotate the 5th one back in. And then you still have 4 in the front. And now you have a little loser single model unit to handle your backfield.
Yep.
So I had, I think, 2 single model units at the end of that game. It was rough. I was losing so many models and it was not looking my way at all, but it's a very close game.
So you have saber throw on Luke, right?
Yes,
Is that saber throw rounded up or down? Down, right?
rounded up. So
Around
4
so
dice with
four,
Luke.
4 black. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things. So, going into the single limbs, we get to pick a new list. And I've promised not only myself, but I've made the promise on this cast multiple times that I would be playing this list for the next year. And that's one of the things I'm thinking about swapping out on Luke. Right now I have the space dodge on him, the old force reflexes, and I think
Yeah.
I'm going to swap it out for saber throw. Because as much as I like the force reflexes on Luke, I'm getting a bunch of dodges from different stuff anyways, whether it's his
Mhm.
cards or portable scanner from the officer or the officer's
Yeah.
own, and so and I've found myself multiple times going, boy, could I use a range 2 Luke right
Yeah.
now, like to throw something and then force pull these guys into him. So at least I'm like doing something here.
Yeah. So with Luke, there's several. I have several strong feelings of saber throw over force reflex. The obvious one is probably the least compelling. Air speeders that you can't touch them
Yep. Yep.
otherwise. But it's such a small dice pool that it probably doesn't matter a whole lot anyways if you don't have something to fire support it with.
Okay.
But the bigger reasons are if you're running Son of Skywalker, you in a lot of cases you can one shot a unit with that first swing and you're not going to be engaged with a second unit, at least not easily.
Yeah.
So if instead, you aim swing, kill a unit, and then saber throw into another, you could probably wipe 2 units with Son of
Yep.
Skywalker. That's a regular occurrence for him.
Yeah.
And then force reflexes, Luke is not a model that wants to go first.
Right.
9 times out of
Mhm.
10, he's going to force reflex at the end of the round. And
Yep.
then why is he doing it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, and it's funny. Just I think a lot of this, the round robin has been great to just get me to, because I really like my list and I've been doing pretty good with it. I definitely have a positive record over all the tournaments and stuff I've played it at, so that's pretty positive. I think I'm probably like 10-3 or
Oh,
4.
nice.
Yeah, 10-4 with this list, so that's
Heck
Very
yeah.
nice.
yeah, it's not bad. And so, my goal is to just make small changes. And like the other thing I'm thinking about doing, and I don't mind talking about it on here, but like, is I have recon intel and environmental gear with Sabine, and both of them are decent. The recon I don't use as much. I do like environmental gear, but I'm thinking about taking out both of those and putting in the grappling line in there because I've found that like I really want to use, like I need her to do something and like get in the mix a little bit more, and I need like one more. Like the dark saber is nice, but I need like one more little piece that's kind of like, oh yeah, and you don't move, and then
One
go,
more cheesy thing to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just to like mess with people, you know what I mean? To be like, because like for instance, in that game today, there's like 2 great points where I could have jumped out with Sabine, but I just couldn't stomach doing it because she just didn't have enough oomph to like. But if I could have jumped out and like immobilized them Wookiees or something, and then like gone into like
Yeah.
and then gone and done something else, like that would have been, I think, would have been a lot more. So that's definitely something I'm probably going to swap up to. And
You've got a 9-point bid too. Like you could keep
Yeah.
one of those.
oh, I
You
know
could-
what I got.
It's a deep bid.
That's correct.
Do you choose red or blue when you
Depends. I mean,
if
think
it's not a skew list that you're against that has like bombing run and breakthrough, do you take
Yeah.
red or blue?
blue. But if
So-
it's a really bad board and they have a similar list to mine, I take red. Or a similar, battlefield. Yeah, I take red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
on
nice to have the
mine,
choice.
everyone's been taking blue over me, but uniquely, Iden 333 3 Dubex is one of those skew lists that has like a real nasty blue deck you don't want to play against.
Yeah.
What's your blue deck?
My blue deck, let me pull it up so I don't say anything wrong. It is recover the supplies, payload, sabotage, and intercept the transmissions. So intercept is real rough because I can deploy like on the center point, and then you have to come in, and
Yeah.
so it's just like I basically get to
starting
attack.
fighting uphill. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have dewbacks. So you collapse on the middle. I just swap out my tack strike for my dewbacks and fight in that area. Payload is really great because dewbacks are phenomenal. Tack strike makes you really mobile, and I can deploy with tack strike farther ahead. So once my payload catches up, they can contribute. Sab, I have an infinite range sniper with Iden and Dell. So like I could do the range game, and then once you get close with tack strike, I can just whack a few activations
Bell is
off
not
typically.
infinite.
Dell is
Dell
not
is range
infinite.
5.
Yeah. And what was the last one?
Recover.
Yeah,
I
that
think.
was the last one. Recover.
Yeah, recover's
Recover.
an
If I'm blue, I
obvious-
just put Iden on the center point, drop her 1 pip, grab the box, move, and now she has a dodge and a standby, and hopefully heavy cover. And it's just like not many people can handle on turn
Yeah.
1 the box moving 6 inches towards your board side.
Yeah. Yeah, those are tough. Those are tough. I'm not sure. I think, yeah, I think I would still rather like play recover against you out of those.
With your army,
Yeah.
just because you think you could chase it down, even with the 3 dewbacks who are gonna screen as soon as you get close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll kill the dewbacks with the
Yeah, Luke.
DLTs.
Luke's a maniac on recover.
Luke
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with burst, like even
Yeah.
if I give you 1 round to head start, like I'll catch up.
Yeah. This is good stuff to be talked about because my my next opponent is playing Luke Han Solo.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Luke is that character who for 4 turns can do nothing, and then all of a sudden has eaten half your army in 2 turns, and you're like, I'm sorry, what just happened? And you're all tied up and everything's, and he caught you, you're Iden and your little strike team is running away with the box. And the next thing you know, you get magic pulled back.
Your
and get
shield
chopped
doesn't
in
work
half.
in melee.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah. I know last week, Jay, you talked about how you keep catching people at the disengage on Luke. And I
Yeah.
have definitely made that mistake in my past before. I had one where it was
Ooh.
Vaps, and I like have basically tabled the guy beside his Luke. And I just engaged Luke with 1 dude on the 2 dudes because I was like, oh, he can force push me. Now I have a second. And then he's just like, I'm gonna force push and disengage and then tap your
Takes
VAP.
3.
And I was just like, oh no. And I had no one in range to touch it because I put them all into Luke to try and stop him.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
It's one of those mistakes you will never make again.
Yeah.
No. I've had a game where Luke on VAPs, you get to the backfield. Like I think I got to the backfield pretty early. And you don't want to like waste time early hitting the VAP, hitting your
Mhm.
opponent's VAP, because he'll just hit it back. And then like you
Yep.
wasted a valuable action. So I just like hopped around from unit to unit until round 6 comes. I find an activated unit. Once they've activated, I throw them into to surround the vaporator, and I go up there, engage them, or I think I went there and then pulled them into engage. So I
Mm.
block the vaporator and then
And you
hit
can
it
still
once.
tap it. Yeah.
Then they can't tap it because it's surrounded. It's
Yeah.
great.
I can't tell you. I don't think there's been a single game of moisture evaporators where I've even attempted to go for the other person's FAP. Where
All the
I
time.
either way, whether I'm red or blue, I'm just like, this just coming down to points, and then I just kill. I'm like, I'm just going for the points. Like I don't know why. It's just never in my head to even like. I'm just like, well, that's
Yeah.
dead to me. I'm just gonna kill stuff like every time. Like I don't even think about like going up and tapping anything. I'm just like, I'm just gonna kill all this stuff. Like,
It's a surefire way to win.
yeah.
It is true. Yeah.
Especially you got Sabine now too. She's so fast.
Yeah, I find though she can be a glass cannon at times because it's like you're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, she's got red and all this and blah blah blah, and I've got 2 dodges on her and heavy cover, and then someone comes in and like rolls like an insane shot, and you end up losing 3 wounds, and you're like, well, I'm almost dead now.
I mean,
And,
I'm not
you know,
saying that you. Yeah, I'm not saying that she's
Yeah,
invincible.
I understand. I've just found it, I don't know about you guys, but I found it harder in these TTS games in this round robin with the maps we're playing on to find places where that's even like putting her in spots that
Completely blocking LOS.
yeah, yeah.
And then if you ever pop out, then pop
Yeah.
out so that you can only see one unit or two. Two preferably because gunslinger. But like don't let the whole army see you. Make them work
No,
to see
I
you.
listen to me. I play this game and I understand.
yeah,
But
I'm
then
coming from
then you
old
have
school
somebody like
Luke
Kevin
Sabine.
or Kevin,
Jump.
Kyle, you have someone like Kyle who's got Pelp and he's like, oh yeah, pulls strings. They moved and then they moved again and then they
I mean-
shot and now she's in the open and you're just going, dude, what? Like what
Plans
just
change
happened?
against like Palp and Yoda, obviously.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. Well, and I think Yoda and Palpatine lists are uniquely positioned against my list that make it very tough to play against.
Yeah, I
You know?
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are like ultimate control pieces.
Yeah.
Yoda and Palp.
Yeah, Yoda is weirdly, I don't know. I find him, and maybe it's just me, and John, you played him more than anybody here, really. But I find him to be like, he's like a roller coaster. Like some games he's like really good, and you're like, oh my God, Yoda, OP, best unit in the game. And then you play another game against Yoda, and like he does nothing, and he's just like, yeah, well, okay, Yoda
well,
not
he's
OP.
like Palp in that way, right? Like if someone leaves Palp out to dry and he takes a few
Yeah.
wounds, that's like devastating to his game. So like
Yeah.
you have to be like on it, playing it perfectly, or else he seems super lackluster.
Yeah.
But then when you play someone who does play Palp properly, you know, like we said, hides him behind a little rock or has his protector to IRGs keeping him safe, and now you'll die will come. Like,
Chewy for Yoda.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't ever really experience the roller coaster with Yoda.
Because you're just
I had-
so good.
No, I went 2-2 at Adepticon. Obviously,
be
I'm not
nice.
that good.
Must be nice to be so good, John.
Listen, Jay. Listen.
Well, you still
I'm
got
just
one game
saying.
left. We'll see. We'll see. if
I'm
you
not
make
playing
it.
Yoda right now. I'm playing my homeboy Luke.
Yeah, dude, Luke is so good.
He's so good.
He's so
I will admit, if he's even listening, that my opponent today, Roger Doinkinson, that was the first time that I've ever felt like I got out Luked. Ever. Like I've been playing Luke since LVO 2019 and before. And so like I've gotten real comfortable with everything Luke can do. And like I know the tricks, and then he did something that I wasn't expecting, and I was like, oh crap, that's really bad. And I got put on my back foot again. And I was like, crap, I gotta make up for this.
yeah.
It was wild. Very fun game.
yeah, definitely some really tight games this Invader season, all around from what we've been hearing. Not too many blowouts for the most part. I feel like it's always like that. A lot of times in Invader, you have like a ton of really tight games, and you might have a few newer people where it's a little more one-sided. But I find it's always a good mix of, you know, really
Yeah.
close games.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, right, it's 6 people that you have to play, so there's no way you're gonna have like an easy time. The odds are you're gonna have some real
5
tough people
people.
in your group. 5 people, yeah. I guess one is yourself.
Yes.
But I think something that is kind of with that, like people are pretty friendly for the most part in Invader, and I know most people have like done Invader for their first time and had a good time.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like it's not something to be intimidated about. Like it's a real fun time. I've known some people that they had their first games in our group and like loved it and have come back for more and different things. And so like I don't know, I just don't want people to get like discouraged when they hear about these things and whatever with Invader. Like it's definitely still like I think there's this idea about TTS, and that's, you know, like international and super hyper competitive. But I don't think you have to be super experienced like
No.
to hop into it. Like if you know how to play Legion, you're good to go. People are friendly.
Yeah. Which is a great segue.
To our next topic.
Yes.
What's our next topic, pal?
So we were
gonna-
talking.
yeah,
Oh, good.
about tabletop etiquette.
Okay.
And that can mean like several things. That could be taken several different directions. So it could be like how friendly you should or should be, I guess. playing a game and like what your responsibilities are as a friendly neighborhood Legion player.
Yeah, I think the reason why tabletop etiquette is a really important topic is one of the big reasons a lot of people come to Legion is because they hear how friendly the community is.
Mm.
I've known multiple people that have reached out. So I'm a local TO in my area. So I hear, I think, a bit more from the players than some people might. But I've had new players reach out, right? For our events, we say, oh, new players welcome. Come hang out. We'll teach you how to play. And one guy was like, are new players really welcome? Because like I've showed up to like 40K things and like got chewed out when I didn't know how to play. And I was like, no, like new players are actually welcome. Like if you don't know
Yeah.
how to play, like you can even PM me before and say I've never played Legion before, and like I'll bring a fun list and teach you how to play during the tournament. I find that with
Okay.
like one of the reasons that it's really important to have a friendly community is because like that's where we're growing. One of the reasons why Legion had this meteoric rise is because of the community, right? We got a tight rule set, but also like there's a lot of great games out there, but not every game has a community with the reputation of Legion. Obviously, we're not perfect as a community, but I think you compare it. I never played 40K, but I played Magic the Gathering competitively, and the atmosphere is very different. But
Mm.
there's also one key difference in like the style of game. In Legion, there's ambiguity and like certain things are kind of up to intent. Like they talk about margin of error, for example, isn't a thing in Magic. There's very explicit rules. So you can kind of like be a jerk and like it doesn't affect my gameplay besides maybe tilting me because like there's nothing you can't, push your guys a little farther forward or get really gamey about movement tools or something. But I think that's one of the things about Legion. Like there is that little margin of error that kind of carries into, keeping it friendly, being really clear about your intent of what you're trying to do at all times. That's something I do a lot of. Like I'll pre-measure stuff and then move them and be like, oh, I'm moving and putting my character here at exactly range 2 of your Luke so that you can't double move and engage me. So that, the next turn, if something comes up, he's like, he knows exactly where I am, what my intent is. He's not going to try and double move in. Because you don't want the opposite side where it's like a feels bad, where you're like, you put it exactly to, the fact that you can't technically engage that. And they move and accidentally bump something like, oh no, see, I can't engage. And then it's like, you were correct in your measurement, but like also there is margin of error. So just being really clear and explicit gets rid of all those things. So everyone's on the same page.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say a lot of it too is reading intent or like and how and like what you were just saying, like and if I think there's things like 99.999% of the time in Legion, you're like, okay, I'm measuring movement now, and you're like trying to figure out if the movement measurement is what you want to do, and then you're like, nah, and you just go back to the beginning of the movement tool, right? And like I think if you're like if as long as you're talking out like what your intent is like, hey, because you're allowed to measure, you get 2 measuring uh devices on the table at one time. You get your range ruler and a movement tool. You can have both of those on it at the same time. And so if your intent is to move your full speed, see what range you're at, and then as long as you don't move your movement template and and you go, okay, now I'm going to go back to the beginning, that's good. And I think we need to like, I would say 99% of the time people are completely cool with like things like that. And there's very few people you run into that like are like, well, no, you moved, so that's it now. And and I think those are the people we want out of the game, I think, rough for the most part. Because really, if what keeps this community going and what keeps here's the thing. Let me back it up a bit. Our community is different in the fact that it's Star Wars. So therefore, it brings people into this like Lucas who have never played tabletop wargaming before. Lucas came into it because of Star Wars and stayed because of Star Wars. And then so now we have this really cool mix of people from all different backgrounds, guys like myself who have played tabletop war games before and love Star Wars, so now do this one exclusively. People like Lucas who've never played tabletop before but love Star Wars. I think that's true, right, Lucas? I thought that's what you said, but
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I played other games, but never a war game. I did like Armada, Magic the Gathering,
Okay.
that stuff. But yeah,
But and so I think what we need to do is keep the oh gosh, what's the word? To keep the the coolness of this group intact by letting people know like, hey man, we're kind of cooler in this game
Yeah.
than a lot of other games. Like, and it's not as sweaty as some games. It gets sweaty, but it never gets the level of these other games, and I think a lot of it is intent, a lot of it's margin of error, a lot of it's saying, oh hey, this is where I'm moving. Yep, okay, that's range 3 from these guys. Yep, agreed. And then next turn they're like, well, you're not range 3, and we're like, really? Because we both just shot at each other last round, and so you'd like just, yeah,
Yeah.
being cool and just like, letting little things slide, like bumps and tables and
yeah.
stuff like that.
I think a big one too is like always assuming the best intent in like your opponent. Because I've seen sometimes the one case sometimes where like players might misinterpret what someone else is doing or misinterpret a rule, and sometimes things will get hostile there. Like obviously you can't know that for a fact.
Mm,
I think like a golden rule is like always assume like the best intent from your opponent. Like know your rules. Like if like someone's like flipping dice that they're not supposed to be, or like breaking the rules, like I'm going to tell them. But like at least for me, I've had tons of people mess up on things or forget tokens, and
yeah.
it's like I always assume like, oh, they just forgot. Like the moment you start going to getting this mindset that like whenever someone messes up, like they're trying to cheat or game you, that's like when people start becoming kind of like rules lawyers or really hostile. Like
Yeah.
always assume that your opponent's going to do their best, and in that same area, like self introspect and like make sure that your intentions are the best. Because we all do it a little bit, maybe not even intentionally, but like whenever something comes up, you tend to instantly favor yourself before you think it through. And so, like for cover all the time, everyone does this. You look down, like, oh, they're in the open, and then they're like, no, they're in heavy, and then you go back down, like, oh, you're right, they're in heavy. But like whatever
Yeah.
it is in your brain, you like assume the best case scenario. But that's like something you have to actively check, I think, honestly. So it's like assume the best in your opponent, and then make sure like
Hmm.
all of your choices are in the best of like the fun of the game.
Well, and I find, even as someone who plays as often as I do, like I was just talking about Gar, right? Like I don't know everything that's going on in Gar, and like I know it abstractly, but I don't play those lists, so I don't have as deep of a knowledge in it. And so I literally, the game I had today with Kodak, I asked him like 5 times, like, how are you doing that? Wait, what's happening? Like, how is that? Explain to me how that's happening. And then he was like, okay, so Yoda does this and then that, and then I'm doing this. And then you're like, okay. And then you follow the logic. But like, I do that all the time. Even if I know, like, sometimes I just want them to explain to me what they're doing so that I know that they've thought through like the process of how they
Yep.
got there. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Mhm.
And they're like, well, no, explain to me how that happened. And then sometimes people go, oh yeah, no, I can't do that here. And you're like, yeah, or like sometimes it's like, oh, you can because of this. And then you're like, oh wow, that's pretty powerful. I didn't know about that.
Yep.
And I think it's going to keep going like that because with the Shadow Collective stuff going on, you guys are probably going to memorize it faster than I will. I'm terrible at that. I will like have no idea, and somebody will come trounce me with like a Shadow Collective list because I'll just be like, wait, what? What does this do? Like, why does it do this? And so, but yeah, always ask. I always ask people
Mhm.
like, okay, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? How's that
You can
happening?
also always ask to see their cards, and that's one of the
Hmm.
great things about Legion is all the rules
Yeah.
are right there. So if you don't know something does, read the front of the card. If there's a keyword that you don't know, flip the card around, and on the back of the card it'll
Yeah.
explain the keyword. Um,
But also know
yeah.
the rules reference because those are not
Yeah.
final.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
Those
aligned
reminder
with that is I would
text.
go read the errata and make sure you understand that, like the Vader, right? Vader's got a bunch of new stuff that is
Mhm.
not on the text of his cards right now, and so like you got to make sure that you're.
Well, and things like nimble, I think, are not as clear
Right.
on the card themselves. That like what
Um,
happens if you spend 2 dodges, kind
well,
of thing.
yeah,
I don't know if that's
I know
yeah.
it's
standard.
Well, it
abbreviated,
says
right? There's no bullet
if you
points.
spent
No,
one
it's
or more
clear on that.
dodge tokens, gain one
Yeah,
dodge
it's clear.
token. Yeah, that's very clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, But I 100% agree. Both what Lucas and Jay are saying. And I think the biggest takeaway there is to verbalize what you're saying. Verbalize what you're saying. Verbalize what you're doing.
Should
And
always verbalize what you're
yes,
saying. Yeah.
yes, you should. Like I'm
Okay,
trying to do right now.
yeah,
I'm trying
yeah.
to verbalize what I'm
Do
saying.
better than John. But yes, do it.
So that it's clear as like even dice results. You know, I'll roll 4 hits and then I'll say, okay, now I'm spending the aim on these 2 and say that's 5 hits. Heavy cover brings it down to 3.
Yeah.
I always say like every step
Mhm.
of that.
You know
Yep.
what? Something I recommend too. I know it says in the rules, I never touch my dice if they're surges. I always
No.
go surge to crit and then 1 for what, you know, because I have a surge token or whatever. And then I go, so these 2 are crits and that one's a hit. And then just because I don't touch my dice, just because you never know, like you could accidentally bump something and you don't want to be perceived as doing something, you know,
Yep.
or either way, right? You don't want to screw yourself
Yeah.
and like they didn't see the hit and then you like dumped it to a blank and then or on the opposite it was a blank and you
Yep.
dump it into a crit, you know, or something. And
I always make sure it's very clear that like my opponent sees my results on the table before I pick them up.
Yeah.
Like especially if it's under a piece of terrain, I'll like try and like pick it up the piece of terrain a little bit and like show them the result before I grab it, or be like it's a crit, and then cause like I said,
I don't care to show them blanks. If it's a blank, I'm like, yeah, that
oh yeah,
sucks.
if it's a blank, what are they
That
going to
hurt.
argue with you? No,
Yeah.
are you sure you're not lying to me? You blanked.
It was a blank. I'll take a reroll if you want, but it was a blank.
Yeah. But right, making those things really clear. I'll even like count stuff out for them. So like if it's with, because I know some people can like with cover and dodges and armor and all
Yeah,
that.
low
Now that we have, you know,
profile.
low
Yeah.
profile, we got like snipers with low profile, spider droids that will have dodges and armor. I kind of like if they have a certain amount of dice with hits, once they confirm the number of hits, I'll be like, these 2 go away to cover, this one goes away to your dodge. So like this is what you're rolling for.
Yeah.
Like you can even explicitly, like in my case, usually put the dice on those results. Of course, once they've seen the results, I'll do that. But just makes it even easier to keep track, because I know not for everyone. You know, I do math for my job, so I like numbers, but I know not everyone enjoys those things. So yeah. For those of you who can't see it, yeah, Jay's pointing to himself.
God, I just like gloss over sometimes with numbers. Like you guys on this cast. So if you guys ever hear me get really quiet, it's because like John and Kyle or Lucas and Kyle or Tim. Actually, you guys are all numbers guys. Tim or Kyle, like all the guys on there, they'll start talking numbers, and I'm just like dying in my chair over here, going, "Oh my God, just kill me!" Like I play with my heart and I play with feelings. I don't play with numbers or mathematics or
well,
logic.
that's why you lost.
Yeah. That's why I always lose.
Put them in the dirt.
I get it. I know who I am, John.
All right. Just making sure it's clear.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. I know exactly who I am.
Before we stray too far from tabletop etiquette, I do want to make sure we kind of draw a line though, that just because you say something's your intent doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's necessarily, if both you and your opponent agree, then yes, it becomes binding. But just because you say it doesn't mean it's true and binding. I can't just move here, think that I'm scoping your Z6 and say, oh, the Z6 is the only one I can see.
Yeah.
Like you both
it's
need
an
to verify.
Agreed state. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the more common one is with cover. People will move
Yeah.
over and they'll do something, and then you'll move shoot, and they'll be like, "Oh, I moved here, getting heavy cover," and you're like, "Well, I know you're originally in heavy cover, but now I've moved." And you're like, "Well, I wanted to put it where you couldn't move," and it's like, "Well, it's kind of too late. I've now moved and it's in the open." So like, if I stayed, we agreed on the state that it was in. Yeah, we agreed that I was in heavy cover where I was originally, and now I've moved and it's not. And like, you know, you can't be like, my intent is to move here into heavy cover, and be where like no matter where you go, I'm still in heavy cover. Like you can do your best to set that up.
Request.
But
yeah. You should never agree with your opponent that wherever you move, you're always going to be in heavy cover. That sounds like nonsense.
Yeah, so it's an agreed upon state between both players, right? Like just because, like you said,
yeah, and it's for that game state. As soon as you move, stuff changes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
And I
Alright.
think that the golden rule for all of this is like just like be nice to your opponent. Like
Yeah.
treat them in the way you would want your opponent to treat you.
Don't
So
be
like
a D-bag.
yeah, don't be a D-bag. And if you have to ask what that means, you're probably being but like it's like when you win, like handle that in a way that if you're on the losing end of a game, you'd want that to be. And then when you lose, handle that in the way that if you just won, because like nothing sucks the fun out of a game more than like when your opponent is like way too stoked and it was like a rough game, like and they're like freaking out about stuff. But in like vice versa, also like nothing sucks the fun out of a win more than like a component like constantly complaining the whole time to you. So like
And I
be
think
courteous when you win, also be
Yeah.
courteous.
but I would think I always like to tell people like, listen, when you win, like if you give a little like fist bump, okay, like a little shake of your fist, like, yeah, I got
Yeah.
this, like
Yeah.
that's great. And then shake your opponent's hand,
Yep.
and then same when you lose, like if you gotta like like you get one of those. I get those every once
I get
in a
real
while.
quiet a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
times. There's like,
But then you let it go, and you got to remember to like, hey man, you did a great job. I'm just that was a
Yep.
tough game, and almost everybody understands that, right? Like they understand the hype of winning and they understand the lows
Yep.
of losing, and so as long as it's like the rules of baseball, right? They're the unspoken rules where you like don't be like dancing around the bases if you hit a home run, because the next time you're gonna get hit with a pitch. Like it's just that's part of it, right? And so this is it. Like there's a lot of gentleman-like rules that are unspoken that I think are just good rules that we have in Legion, to just be cool, be appreciative of your opponent and their time, and I mean,
Yeah. Right. There's what's the term? It's like the player's contract or something with Legion. I think there's an actual rule like term in the rules book talking about it's like the player's contract about it has to do with margin of error. I think the language is used in that section. But basically the point is like there's a contract between the players. You're gonna do your best to like have a good time playing with each other and follow the rules as intended. Like if you bump a piece of terrain, yes, it's technically against the rules to move terrain, but like I don't know. We saw in the finals, Luke Cook like knocked over a tree and so disappointed. Like that stuff happens, but it's like that player's contract of like, no one freaks out when you accidentally knock over a tree. Yes, it's against the rules, but it's I don't know what the correct word for it is. But when you're going into a game, like it's on both players, you're there to have a good time, and you're both like a part of that.
Yeah, and I think if an instant like that happens, and before that you both agreed that there was no line of sight there, and then it gets bumped, like it should stand that there's no line of sight there because you already agreed upon that. The players already agreed upon that. So there's nothing worse than something getting bumped and then people being like, well, I can see him now, and you're like, well, that got bumped. We clearly said you couldn't, and yeah, dude, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't be that person. We all know you want to win. We want to win too. Everybody wants to win. It's built into human nature. We all want to win. No one likes losing. But you know what, man? You could be a winner in life if you're just cool.
Well, I think something too that I kind of allude to in my articles and word it better, but like Legion is an innately imprecise game and also a luck-based game. So like if you want to get real sweaty and like have a game that has no luck and is a true battle of wits, like chess does exist. Like you realize like when a dice roll goes bad, like you don't have to be playing a dice game. Like you are deciding to play a game with like luck in it. And one of the reasons why I think dice games are fun is like it allows for upsets. Like, Kyle Dornbos is the first one to drop a game, the fifth trooper, and he's like probably we'd all say
What
he's
a
probably the best.
loser. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Sorry,
So like
Kyle.
you have a chance of beating Kyle Dornbos, whereas like
Yeah.
in chess, like the grandmasters will have like careers where they never drop a game. And
Yeah.
so I think something people don't always talk about is like we're all also playing this game because like the dice lets us punch above our weight in many ways, as well as sometimes like people below you will punch up. So it's like it's a two-way
Oh,
street, and that
yeah.
helps me a lot with tilt. At least is like I think the moment you think you deserve to win, I'm like no, like I chose to play a war game that we use movement tools and bump stuff around, and there's dice. Like if I wanted to really care that much about winning, I can always go to chess.
And get stomped there.
Yeah, get stomped and then remember why I played a game that's more casual.
Let me tell you, dice have been making me real upset the last like 3 days. They have not been working my way.
I know it. They seem worse in TTS because they're more reasonably balanced in TTS. Do you know what I mean? Whereas in real life, it doesn't always see. I don't know. They just seem way more swingy in TTS, and I think it's just an imagination thing than like a mathematical thing,
Yeah,
But
I think it's I don't know. Now we're gonna get somewhat off off topic for some of these, but I feel like people have like an innate distrust for like code things because they're like, like with the pair of dice, you understand how it works, whereas like how dice work in a game, not everyone understands like you picking an RNG table that then has like predicted randomness and you're subsampling it and all that, versus like everyone gets how a dice works.
yeah. All right. Well, I think we whoops. Right, we're back. Okay. Whoops, I didn't mean to hit that. 5-4.
Jay's just clicking all the
happened.
buttons right now, freaking us out.
Whoops. All right, we're back. Oh goodness. No, I think we're about. I'm so excited for this to be over because I'm so tired.
Is it your bedtime?
Stop, dude. Yeah, it's 10:30, bro.
10:30?
Yeah.
Old man.
I'm sorry. What time? I have to wake up at 5 a.m. So I don't know what time you guys
Have
wake
to.
up.
You work for yourself. What do you mean have to?
Oh, well, I got kids, man.
Oh, okay.
we got kids to drive to school and a
Gross.
schedule like
Oh,
we
all
got
these adult things. Ugh.
6 people with shower schedules and bathroom schedules and
Oh,
get them
jeez.
to school schedules. Yeah, it's a whole game over here. Game of
Bachelor for life.
yeah. No comment.
Wow. Oh, on that note.
As soon as the topics, once you start having kids,
No
this has nothing to
comment
do
on
with
that
Legion.
whole
It's
thing.
time.
Yeah, it's never that I will not win a single one of those conversations. Just tapping out. No, I think this was a good cast, even without Kyle. You know what? If
Who
I had
needs
to
him?
pick one of you guys to take over Kyle's spot, it would be. You know what? It would be Lucas.
I knew it.
And then John, you'd fill the third spot.
I knew it. I see how it is.
Yeah, we'll
See, I've
just
been
I see.
so I didn't like make fun of Jay all this cast
Yeah.
or a no
Yeah,
roast. I've been trying to get on his
Turning
good side
over.
lately.
No, you trashed him pretty early on with
Yeah, he
that
did.
West Coast not naming us
I
on the East Coast.
had to recover. I had some pretty
Did you
brutal
forget
ones.
about that? Do you want to rethink who you would replace Kyle with?
No.
Oof. Right here. Right here is where that hurts.
Yeah, all right. Let's
So does that mean I get to say my name first since I'm replacing Kyle?
sure, buddy.
Oh, yeah, you save last for best.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Best
Okay,
for
what's
last.
the outro again? Thanks for
don't-
tuning in. We are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Lucas.
I'm Jay.
And I'm John Bushfax Bushman.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Hey, you did it. You're in. Congratulations.
I got the job.